We're going to teach Tanner the roll cast today, and Tanner's got a little bit of experience with a roll cast, but he's kind of rough at it. So we're going to try to get him to where he can cast nice tight loops and long distance and understand the mechanics of the roll cast so he can make whatever changes he needs to make depending on the circumstances. Tanner, what I've got here, this is the beginning part of a roll cast. You've got your rod back, depending on the amount of line, somewhere around 2 o'clock or so. It could be 1, 2, even 3 with huge amounts of line. And you've got this thing as a D loop. You see that D? That's a D. You got the straight leg of the D and the circle. That line down there is the D. Okay. So I've got a D loop, and that D loop is somewhere, it can be moving a little bit, it can be behind me a little bit, it can be any place in here. But the bigger your D loop is, if I can get my D loop way back here, behind me, where that's called the anchor point right there. If I can get that anchor point behind me, now sometimes you can't because you've got stuff behind you, but that anchor point is going to allow me, the more I can get that the D loop, the bigger it is, the more I can cast.
Where's the anchor point on the line? Is it where it's touching
where it's
the
touching
water?
the grass, exactly.
Okay,
Where it comes off the grass, that's the anchor point.
Right.
Okay, the other thing is if you can make it a moving anchor like this and then cast, that's going to go farther than a static anchor where you come back and just stop.
Okay.
If you just stop right here, that's a static anchor. Okay. If I've got my line here and I swing it up and the thing's sliding backwards, that's a dynamic anchor. Thank you. So that's what you want to do. So now when you come forward, this is a little different than a forward cast that you've been taught. Instead of nice smooth acceleration, what I do, especially with a stiff rod, watch what I do right here. When I get to right about here, so I'm starting here and I have my hand, so I've checked everything's good, that's 5. 6 is a forward cast, so I'm right here, right there. And then at the very end, I tip cast. Watch what I'm doing right here. And look at that loop, see how nice and skinny it is? That's how you get some distance, is by that loop right there. If you do this, that big old loop is going to flop on you. So you don't want to do this. Okay. So what you want to do is just stop about 10 o'clock with a little tip cast, right about there. Now, what do we use a roll cast for? A lot of people think it's just for stuff behind us. But I use a roll cast a lot to pick a line up out of the water. I use a roll cast to get rid of slack. Let's say you're in a drift boat and all of a sudden you've caught the bank and you pull back your line and a bunch of slack gets right in front of your boat. That guide can't stop your boat. You're going to have to get that slack out or he runs over your boat, and then it's in your oars and all kinds of problems. So right now, watch what I do with that slack. It's gone. I'm ready to roll cast. So the minute I've got a bunch of slack in my line, I want to get rid of it, I can just roll cast it out. So that's really, I think, the most important, but there's a lot of other reasons too. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of drills first, and then we're going to have you actually do some roll casts, but I'm going to go through the steps so you kind of have them. So I'm going to teach you the steps one step at a time, and then you're going to teach me the steps. Okay? So I'm going to stand on this side of you so you can see me, or you could keep that, and you're just going to mimic me. So I'm going to be a little bit in front of you. So this is our first step. Step 1 is rod tip down. Step 2, we're going to move to the side just a little bit because we got to give, if we come straight up, the line will wrap around our rod and then you can't make the cast. So what you're trying to do is clear the rod out of the way of the line. Now if you're casting on this side, because you can do a roll cast off of this shoulder, you've got to move it this way. So now we're here. Now we're just going to do is move it to the outside, and then step 3 is slowly lift your rod up till you're in this position right here. And that's about 2 o'clock with 35 feet of line. This is about where you want. And that's about as much as most people roll cast. If you're going to have a lot more line, then you need to get it farther back because you need a bigger casting arc, which we've talked about. Does that make sense? But for this amount of line, this is about where you want to be. So 1 is down, 2 is over, 3 is up, 4 is check. Now you want to check and make sure you've got your rod at 2 o'clock, about 3 fingers right there, very good. And your line's not wrapped around your rod. If there's windy, you got to check. So now what we do, so that's 4. 5, we're going to make our forward cast. And remember we talked about, what I want you to do is practice this. It's just this. So come forward pretty slow, and at the very end, just tip. There, perfect. Just like that. 6 is follow it down. So you're just going to, you teach me now. What's step 1?
Rod down at the ground.
Good. Step 2? 2's good.
Up at 2 o'clock.
Whoa, 1, you got to use 1 adjective. Slowly. Slowly. If you sling it, it's going to go into the bushes. Who knows where it's going to go? Slowly. Let's do it again. Start down here.
Start down here, outside of your body.
Okay.
Slowly up to 2 o'clock.
Perfect. Check.
Check, make sure the wind's not getting the line on the rod.
Good.
Slowly bring it forward and then flick.
Now you can, it's got to be a little more than slowly forward. I might have miscommunicated a little bit. You still got to make sort of a, but it's a pop at the end.
Okay.
Just this at the end. And it doesn't take much energy. You'll see when we get the rod. Okay, then follow it down. So one more time, tell me what you do.
1, 2 outside the body.
Mm-hmm.
3 slowly up here.
Yep.
2 o'clock. And then get going and flip the wrist.
Perfect. Stop about 10. Don't stop. It seems like you got to go down, but you make a really tight loop that's close to the ground. If you stop right about 10 o'clock, then follow it down. Perfect. Okay, we're going to have you do it. Whoops. So what you're going to do, you don't mind if I put my hand over yours a little bit? Okay, so what we're going to do is first thing we're going to do, we've got this thing stapled into a screwdriver, so you don't have to go do it it's hard to do without the meniscus of the water. It doesn't create enough force to bend the rod.
Okay.
So it's hard to do on the grass. So let's move back just a little bit. So here's your D-loop. So the first thing you're going to do, you're here. 1, 2, 3, 4, check. You've got a D-loop, the line isn't on your rod. 5, now I want you to close your eyes and totally relax and feel this cast. Okay, so let's do that one more time. Down, out, up, check. You can turn and just face this. It's hard to see it, I see. You got a D-loop. Look at your D-loop. It's not trapped. Now, close your eyes and feel this cast. Okay, you can just bring it back. Right there. And watch where my rod's stopping. Okay, try it. Beautiful. Now cast to the left. There's one more principle we got to talk about, and that's the railroad tracks.
Okay.
So you're here, you can't cast your line over itself.
Okay.
It'll tangle. So you can't put your rod tip over the line. You can't drive it. So what you're going to have to do in this case, since the line is over on your right, you've got to cast to the left to create, you've got to create what they call railroad tracks. You can see the line now creates a railroad track. You can't cross tracks. That'll hang it. So what you want to do is nice and parallel to each other.
Okay.
So here you're going to have to go to the left. Try it again. Good. Good. Now you're getting so far over to the left, in real life you'd be all the way over here. So now you can actually practice it on this side. Same thing. Down, outside, up, right here. Check. Everything's good.
Yep.
You got hang it now, just the same thing.
Boom.
And now you get to that side. So you can practice one side, practice the other side. Go ahead. Okay, don't start quite so fast. Start a little. Okay, this time I want
Let
you
it
to,
sit?
yeah, okay, let it sit. Now you just close your eyes and relax. And I'm gonna let you do this a little bit at a time, one bit at a time, more and more and more. Ready? Okay, now I want you to do about 25% of it.
Which 25%?
25% of the effort into the cast you're gonna do.
Got it.
Okay, now 50%. Give me a little more. You can do a little bit more. There, beautiful. Okay, another 50%. Okay, now 75%. Ready? Nice. 75%. Okay, now 100%. Nice. Okay, good. So you're gonna have to get the slack. No, okay, good.
This way.
Okay, but stop it. But
10 o'clock.
and a little bit more oomph at the end. See what you're doing now.
Going
Here's what you're
further than
doing.
10.
You're doing this.
Yeah.
What you have to
Going
do
to
is
8.
this. Look at what I'm doing. I'm taking my rod tip and I'm pounding a nail in that palm tree.
Okay.
Take the rod tip and pound a nail into that palm tree. Go ahead. Better? Don't start so fast, remember? Nice and slow to start. Better? Good. Much better. Good. Try to feel this.
Okay.
That's what you want to do at the end, is this. It's not this. It's a very small, quick pop.
Okay.
Try it. There, that's it. Now, go ahead and do the whole casting stroke and do that at the end. Make sure you're not crossing the railroad tracks. There you go. Good. Slowly back. Nice, pretty good. Now you started a little hard, that's why it was round.
Okay.
Okay, now you're gonna have to go over this side because you cross your railroad tracks.
Like that?
Yeah, but you want to do a roll cast, remember? A roll cast is this. You still got to give it more oomph at the end. Give it more oomph. There. There you go. There, that was it. That's it. Now you got it. Now what we're going to do, we're going to put a little tool in the ground, and it's actually going to allow Tanner to make a cast. And then the camera's going to zoom out so you can see the quality of the loop that Tanner makes by making a cast now that he's practiced a bunch. So we're going to do that. I'm going to take a break while the camera zooms out. So now what we have is we've got Tanner standing there. I've got a tool right here. If he makes a good cast, this should come off the tool and make a nice cast. Should have a pretty good loop and make a nice cast that goes forward. So this is very similar to what would happen if he's on the water. Okay, go ahead, Tanner. Good, you straighten it out. Little kind of a big wide loop. Why is that? Big round loop.
I accelerated too fast in the beginning.
There you go, Ben, perfect. You accelerated a little too fast in the beginning, exactly. Go ahead. Down, out, up, check. Much better. Remember, sure, you got to come over here though. You just crossed the railroad track. You got a little wind, so you got to really, you're going to have to make your cast on this side of the tape right now. Bring it back. Then we're going to have you do it on the other shoulder. There you go. Down, out, up slowly, check, check, check. Make sure you have a good D-loop. There you go.
Not enough.
Now you waited, you came too slow, and you just got to be nice and smooth and then a pop. Try it again. Good though, you're self-analyzing exceptionally well. Try it again. Okay.
Ready?
Yep. Beautiful. That was nice. Okay, now let's see you do it off the other shoulder. Same exact technique, except you're going to do it off the other shoulder. Now remember, you got to make sure you follow the railroad tracks.
I'm just going to be going.
Okay, so now you probably, because the way the wind's blowing, you want to make sure you cast this thing on this side.
So where should my rod tip be pointed at this point?
Your target's right here.
Going there.
That's right. Okay? Down. Go ahead.
I thought I'm
You went, probably back up just a little bit. You need, no, back, not sideways. There you go. Now put your D-loop in. Beautiful. Little big round loop though. So remember, the only way you're going to get an elliptical loop is to have a straight line rod tip path. Your rod tip path is like this. It's a dome-shaped rod tip path. You need to have a straight line, which means when you come forward, it's this. Take your rod tip and pound the top of that palm tree way down there. Think you're pounding a nail into the top of that. That's not good. You're going to bend your nail right there. You're going to stop your rod up here so it's straight line with your rod tip path. Try it one more time. Take out the slack, good D-loop, good. There, much better. You see the difference in the loop? Because you went in a straight line. Excellent, good job. Okay, that is how I teach the roll cast. Super job. Now, if you want to practice that without a line, the best way, or without a, except for not on water, is to get a dynamic roll cast.
Okay.
Just to get a dynamic one. Man, you're going to have to really pop it if you want it to straighten out.
Okay.
And you're going to have a